What's up, everybody? Welcome to a pre-recorded edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our code NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N. In all caps, we got a very special episode and interview today with Colby's dear friend and hopefully a new friend of mine by the time we're done with this, James Van Riemsdyk. I'm sure he's going to hate me. Colby's already shaking his head. But, Colby, I'll kick it over to you. How pumped are you to have JVR on this show?
Yeah, listen, we've definitely tried to link up with him for about a year to get him on, and he made that little cameo appearance when Shaddy retired, and so
He's
I
too
know
focused, too regimented.
he's look, this is a guy who is really dialed into his craft. He spends a lot of time with the game of hockey. He's not a show up at the rink and play and then leave type of guy. So he's a busy guy with a busy guy with a busy schedule. He's got a couple of kids that he spends his time chasing around and doing all sorts of fun stuff with. So it'll be good to get through this with him. Obviously, we're recording this on Sunday, the 22nd, just to give you guys a little bit of reference on that. And we'll let this episode come out throughout the holidays on a couple of our off days, Johnny. So let's not waste his time and waste too much time and do your business here and bring him into the show.
All right, so before we bring on Reamer, just want to give a quick word to our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations, so get 15% off at proraso-usa.com with our promo code Hockey15. And with that, welcome to the show, James Van Riemsdyk. Reamer, what's going on, man? Happy to have you on here.
Yeah, long overdue. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Well, let me just interrupt here because we all know, especially Reamer knows a very long history of me interrupting and always having something to say.
It's an attack at me, isn't it?
Let me just start with this. First off, Johnny, you don't even know the guy.
I know.
Calling him Reamer, which that bothers me right off the top. And the reason it bothers me, and there's a question behind this, Reams, and the question is like, in the hockey world, everybody knows you as JVR. Nobody really calls you Reamer. I guess
I feel like you have. I feel that's why.
No. In the locker rooms, that's one thing. But I'm saying to the hockey world of people who don't know him, it's JVR. So anytime I'm talking about you and I say Reamer, people look at me like I have 6 heads. Especially in Philly, because obviously you're well known in this area around the rinks. When did JVR start? And do your teammates still call you Reamer? Is that just like from back in the day, like with us kids?
It's basketball.
Yeah, exactly. I actually have the jersey that I wear in the summer when I'm having some people over to the house. That's my go-to at the pool and on the lake. So the Reamer nickname, that started I think it was like my freshman year in high school. Ryan DeCooster, who was our stud goalie, he dubbed me that, and that one really stuck ever since then. And obviously that's what a lot of my friends call me. And I think JVR started my first year playing for the Flyers. And I want to say it might have been Tim Panaccio called me that. So I'm pretty sure he might deserve the credit for that one. And that one's obviously flows off the tongue nice too. So 2 pretty good ones, I'd say.
Yeah, I thought it was strictly based on basketball. Like, I love that movie. One of my favorite movies. Colby, have you seen it?
It's a classic. I'm honestly shocked that you know that movie because it's old.
That's I like dumb comedies. That's my speed. That's all I watch. Like, those are my kind of movies.
So good.
But so I'll call you James now, I guess. So you can show me the whole time.
Actually, Mr. Van Riemsdyk, please.
Mr. Van Riemsdyk. Okay, Mr. JVR. I can do maybe that one. But obviously, listen, it's been an interesting year for you guys. I know we kind of want to start from the beginning, but I want to just get the latest from Columbus because you guys have been playing some really good hockey lately, scoring a lot of goals. Like, what's it been like for you the past few weeks or even a month or so with Columbus?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with our team, I think we have a lot of potential, a lot of younger players that are definitely taking the next steps in their careers. No question about it. If you look,
Ken Johnson's on fire.
If you look throughout our roster, a lot of young guys really taking a step this year, which has been great. And we've been right there in a lot of games. I think lately we've kind of struggled to close some of those games out. And I think that's kind of the next evolution of our team is just managing the situational hockey And when the score and time on the clock dictates certain things to be done, that we make sure we're really dialed in to those details. But certainly, again, we have a lot of really good young players, and we're led by two guys like Sean Monahan and Zach Wierenski, who are having great years too. So again, I think we got a really good mix of veteran guys who have been around, and then some younger players who are really looking to take a step in their careers.
Man, you've got that media train answer locked down, huh?
It's the truth. That's kind of that's how our team is kind of built. And again, I think a lot of those younger guys are really doing a good job of taking that next step. And it's been exciting to see. You kind of forget again when now I'm like 15 years older than some of these guys, so it's cool to kind of try to hopefully help them along a little bit in their as they progress in their careers. And just again, a lot of guys that are really hungry to grow as players and to maximize their potential as players. That really this you could tell that being a good player, being a winning player, really matters to them. And I think that's a fun environment to be a part of.
Well, and Johnny, the thing is like when you have an 82 game schedule and your season is 3/4 of the year or more, even when you're on a team that's in last place or struggling, you have no choice but to show up every day and try to be optimistic and you know, basically live in that day. You know, Columbus, you know, you guys are coming off of a tough loss, but you still show up every day. You still have all your meetings. You still watch film. You guys are still trying to go out and win a game, you know, every day. So you almost have to ignore what the standings are and try to find some of the positive things, Johnny. And a, kind of a fun fact, one of the assistant coaches for Columbus, Mike Havland, who Reams plays for, his brother is actually who I work with at the Titans.
Right.
So we're both getting a daily dose of the Havland brothers. And it kind of goes to James's roots. You know, the rink that we play out of in Middletown, New Jersey. How far is that from your house? It's only a couple of minutes, right? Or where you grew up?
Yeah, exactly. It's only a couple of miles from my house. Actually, George Sr. was my first roller hockey coach, and basically it was my first organized hockey coach. And I got actually a chance to see him down in Tampa here. So he's like the godfather of Middletown hockey. So he was the guy who started all the roller hockey, and then from there it kind of evolved into the high school teams, getting teams, and now obviously with the rink at Middletown. But the Havilands have done so much for hockey locally in Middletown, Monmouth County, the Jersey Shore. So it's definitely it's been fun to. This is my first chance to really get to spend a lot of time with Mike, and he's been great.
Yeah, Mike's the best, and I played for those guys when I was a kid too. You know, it's obviously, you know, we're not from far, which is how we knew each other as young kids, and kind of segues me where I want to really start this interview with you. And you know, now that I'm back in the area and I work with the young players around here, and I see Brendan, you know, I run into your youngest brother around the rink all the time, and I know he's also working with the younger players and doing the hockey camps and everything. But you know, I'm just curious because I think I remember my version of this, but when did you know how good you were? And when did it start to be real for you that like, wow, this kid from Brick, New Jersey, who didn't even play quote unquote AA hockey at the time, there was no AAA hockey. You know, this guy who was tearing CBA up and playing for Brick Hockey Club with green electrical tape that I know you hung on to that as long as you possibly could. But like, when did it become real for you where you could see a path to being what you've been and having, you know, the career that you've had?
Yeah, I think looking back, it just because I didn't really ever have those expectations, like from an early age. Like obviously everyone who picks up a stick, I think, wants to play in the NHL, but realistically, you're not really expecting that going through the ranks, and that was no different for me. I remember growing up, going to watch CBA play in the state tournament for high school hockey, and just thinking it'd be amazing to play for them. So it just kind of evolved little by little, where I think it helped me, to be honest, looking back, just be more present with what I was doing and be in the moment for where I was playing. So it wasn't until really I got to like the U.S. program, maybe after like my first year there, when I got ranked in the first round for some of the draft rankings, where I'm like, okay, like this is going to be like the NHL is like a legit possibility for me. Like it was more about, okay, I'm going to play at my high school team and then I get accomplished that. Then it's like, okay, high school coach, Mike Reynolds, he was like, I think you got a chance to play Division I. And obviously a couple of years later was able to commit to go to UNH. And then from there, it just kind of, it seemed to snowball where your expectations and your goals start to shift. But like, I never really thought it was that realistic to think I could play in the NHL going through everything from those younger ages. It just kind of, I think, evolved. And I think, again, I never got too far ahead of myself, but again, I think that was partially because my expectations and some of those things were kind of just with where I was at. It wasn't about kind of years and years down the road, which I think helped me.
Well, Colby always says that people who go to UNH just weren't offered or recruited by BU. So why didn't they recruit you? What was wrong with you in your game that you didn't go to BU?
Yeah,
I'm sure I have said that. Yeah,
you say that every show.
I'm sure I've said that.
No, I had. It's funny how the different fits work for some of those things where maybe you feel a little more love and wanted from different places, and you develop different relationships with some of the coaches. And going back to how I kind of picked UNH, it just felt like not only did they want me to come there, but they needed me to come there to try to help with the team that they had. And yeah, I just resonated with the coaching staff and the hockey part of it, and then the campus piece of it seemed to be great. I grew up a lot going to like Maine, so that rural sort of feel for the school just felt very comfortable for me.
Before your time there, though, like who was like the UNH guy? Like, was there an NHL player that had a successful career out of UNH? Because you're the first one for like my generation where, like Henry likes UNH.
I'm trying to think of who would be. Like, I know it was like I think like, was it Rod Langway? I want to say he was like from the 80s.
Good name.
In between there, I don't want to forget anyone. Ty Conklin played a little bit. Darren Hadar, Jason Krog.
Oh yeah.
I'm probably forgetting someone in there. I mean, obviously Dan Winnick. He was only a couple years before me.
But Winnie,
great career.
Yeah. Played with him in Colorado. Winnie.
Yeah, so he's great. He's just wrapped up his career over in Switzerland last year, so he's now back over here. But yeah, there's been some good guys over the years. But yeah, it's not necessarily the laundry list that you have at maybe a place like BU or BC or some of those schools like that. But I think for me, I really wanted to go somewhere to try to make my mark too.
Yeah,
I didn't want to be kind of just another guy, and at these places where they're so used to getting great players. I wanted to kind of go somewhere where I could really try to again make something of it and really try to kind of put my stamp on it and go from there.
Well, it's so funny that the way you kind of talk about how you feel love in one place and in the other, but like I obviously remember everybody was recruiting you. It's not like you couldn't have chose where you wanted to go. I think, let me just clarify that for the record, because we all lived the recruiting process together, but it is so true because like, I remember going on my visit to UNH and, Scott Boric, I was there with Scott Boric, and it was in the summertime, and Coach Emili didn't even come. He was on vacation and he didn't come. And I remember being like, this place is amazing. This rink is so cool. And my dad was like, Colby, like, there's no chance in hell you're going to a team where the head coach didn't come off his vacation. So it's where when we visited Denver a couple of weeks prior, George Gwozdecki put me on the phone with his wife during my visit. And he was like, and his wife said, you better commit here because he left our vacation for 2 days to come for this. So, everybody has their own style, and you feel the love in certain places. And that's a great point because it's not a one size fits all approach, when you're doing college recruiting. And obviously you lifted those teams up. I mean, yeah, you had Bobby Butler, who was a hell of a player. Phil DeSimone had a real nice college career. It took him a little bit of time to get going, but he was a real nice player. You had some good defensemen. You had that goaltender who I can't remember his name, but he roasted Jack Parker at the banquet award that one year. If you remember that.
Yeah, was that Kevin Regan? I think it was.
Yeah. Oh,
he's from Mass. He might have even been from Boston, but yeah, I do remember that.
He just roasted Coach Parker at the.
What did he say?
I mean, he called him old. He called him a fossil. He
in a funny manner or like to be.
I don't know.
I'd have to see the tape to remember for sure, but you definitely remember sitting there being like, What's this is amazing.
But those teams were good. And like Shaddy said it on the show a couple of weeks ago, the first game we ever played against you, you pulled that puck between your legs, Sports Center top 5. And I told Jonny before the show started, the year that we won the championship, you guys should have beat us in the regional final. You outplayed us that game. Like
That
our
was a great
goaltender
game.
put on his head, and we got a lucky power play late at the end of the game. Otherwise, you guys go on to the Frozen Four that year. So those are good teams, Jonny.
Yeah. I just think it's so funny too that a guy that played over 1,000 games can remember like a college regional final, you know, like I think hockey memories are one of the coolest things ever. Like I'm sure you can tell us exactly what went down in that game, right? Like you probably have that in the back of your brain.
There's definitely like my memory. I used to be like was so
One of those
great.
freaks.
My memory. It's now it's like again I'm like I need someone to jog my memory. I feel like Colby's someone who remembers like all those little details. So I feel like whenever we get together, we're always like it always kind of reminds me of us.
Colby talking
things.
about old good times when you guys get together. No way.
Yeah. So it's good though. But yeah, no, I remember that game being back and forth. Obviously, those guys that year had clearly the best team. For sure, like in the country. So, so yeah, if we were able to upset them, it would have been pretty amazing. But no, that was definitely a great memory. I remember, I think you guys scored late on the power play to finally put it out of reach within
off your defenseman.
Yeah, it was like a kind of a fluky play too. But no, those were some great memories of all those games back then.
If I may, Mr. JVR, I'd like to move into the next step of the career. Colby, if you have approval as well.
I concur.
All right, awesome. So you go number 2 overall, and I don't know if there was pressure from Philly to go sign pro or whether they like let you take your time at UNH to develop a little bit more. But we've been talking about development a lot on the show like the past few years, like which teams do it poorly, which organizations are better at it. And you step into a Flyers team that's really good right away. And, you know, we're talking about guys who don't necessarily get their shot when they're playing on a team that's competing right away for someone who is drafted so high. Like your rookie year, when you're technically supposed to, you know, step into an organization and be like the next guy, but you're on a team with so many legends, like how does that balance work out when they're technically supposed to be developing you, right? Is that like a weird thing to think about or even explain at the time?
Yeah, I definitely think just that kind of generation, I guess we could call it, of coming in, it was certainly a lot different than it is now. Yeah, definitely. Like you said, like the Flyers were a team too. It was kind of, if you looked at their maybe 3 to 5 years around that, when they got the pick where they picked me second, they were a team that was right there as far as playoff appearances, things like that. So it was kind of a blip in the radar as far as them getting that pick. Because I think that summer, even after that, they made the trades for Scotty Hartnell and Kimmo Timonen, and I think they signed Danny Briere too that summer. So like they weren't looking to tear it down to the studs to rebuild, which is definitely not something that I feel like Philly's ever done. That was kind of the mandate from Ed Snyder to again just be competitive every year. He wasn't going to take kind of anything less than trying to chase after a cup, which looking over the course of my career, you kind of appreciate even more and more now. But no, like you said, I think the way I tried to view it is that it just helped lay the foundation for my career stepping into that situation. There was lots of good guys to learn from. I think besides me and Claude Giroux, I think like there was no one else really under like 25 on the team. So I think I was 20, he was 21. And we had probably more than half the team over 30, which if you look now, like that's unheard of. So I think for me, like, yeah, there was times for sure, like you're competitive and you want to really be able to show what you can do. But at the same time, it's like, how am I going to say that I deserve to play more or in certain roles over certain guys that were as kind of high profile and established as they were when I got there. So I certainly had to bide my time a little bit more. But I think, again, that also allowed me to kind of go through some different growing pains, maybe a little bit out of the spotlight. Whereas now, obviously, you get more opportunity early on, but expectations maybe are a little bit higher early on as well. So that there's a little bit of that give and take. So I think, again, for setting me up to have a great career and having all these great veterans to learn from, I think it's great. Like I said, we were only a couple of us younger players kind of breaking in on a veteran team. I think that balance is very important for any team to have, is where you have the right mix of older guys who have all this experience, who can kind of show the ropes to the younger guys. And then obviously having some of that youthful exuberance and enthusiasm and kind of like swagger that can happen. So I think there's a good balance for that the good organizations find that right balance.
Was there a guy from that team, Reams, that was like a mentor for you? Was, you know, I mean, I forgot this. Johnny reminded me, like Chris Pronger was on, you know, those early days, and you know, we saw Matt Carl was around. I mean, like they're just names that you just kind of forget about, and then you go back and you look, and you're like, wow. Like, I mean, you think about, even you mentioned Ed Snyder. I mean, Ed Snyder was one of the greatest owners in sports because he was as big a fan as any human being in the city of Philadelphia. So who was it for you in those early days that kind of maybe showed you the ropes a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It'd be hard for me to just pick like one guy. It was like different guys at different times. I mean, I remember when I spent the couple of the summers there before I signed, it was like Jeff Carter kind of taking me under his wing a bit. He was showing me the ropes, taking me to Phillies games and stuff like that, and wouldn't let me pay for anything.
I remember
a couple of great nights out with
that group.
But it was like he wouldn't let me like pay for anything at that point, and it's like, geez, like he just was like so like just took great care of me. And again, just guys like him, Mike Richards, Scotty Hartnell, Danny Briere, all at different times. Chris Pronger, just like whether it's different habits they kind of helped me pick up on, or different ways to approach the game and different details. I remember talking about this about Danny B recently, where like the shootout move that I kind of found as my go-to, it was him who showed me it after practice. He's like, hey, like, you have such a long reach. If you kind of come down on your offside, pull the puck over, and then you're going to have the whole net to shoot at. So that, and now I have different like kind of variations of that I can use if that's taken
like low
away.
blocker.
Like,
you're saying
low
like
blocker.
Low blocker.
That was his like.
Hopefully, no goalies are listening to the show right now.
Well, I got. Well, if they stand over there, I got another. I'll put it under the bar the other side, so that's fine. But no. So like even just little stuff like that, and I remember him like even like little tips, like he was saying. A lot of times when he would shoot the puck, he would know where he'd have his spots he'd want to shoot. So it'd be like he'd be seeing where the hash mark or different spots on the ice where he knew if he shot it on that line, he'd hit his corners. So it was less about looking at the goalie sometimes when you don't have, maybe there's that split second, you don't have a chance to do that, but you know if you hit your spot in the elbow, it's going to go in. So different stuff like that about how these guys like kind of approach the game. Was amazing. And then again, having a guy in my line like Aaron Asham, just I can't even count how many guys, if they even looked at me the wrong way, that he fought for me that first year. He was amazing. Underrated skill too. A great saucer pass, great little half slapper he had too. So he was fun to play with. But I mean, again, there's so many guys from those first couple years that were so good to me that really really helped me along, especially that first year.
He's out here on Long Island now, Aaron Asham. I see him at Eisenhower Park every now and then. But
he coaches like the Islanders junior hockey club. I think. Yeah, he does, because I've seen him a couple of times with Dennis Seidenberg's kid. He coached them for the Quebec tournament. So I got a chance. I actually ran into him and Derek Settlemeyer Nasty at Hollydale rink maybe a couple months ago, Reams, and your name obviously comes up. So always.
I just have one more question from that rookie year, and obviously I'm sneaking a Ranger question in here somewhere, and I'm doing it with this. But it's funny, like I've become pretty friendly with Michael Delzato, and he always tells a story of that shootout, and he'll say like even now when he sees Torts will just randomly say like fucking Ole Jokinen, man, like that move in the shootout he pulled. But you know, this is probably a dumb question, but. Being that you were a rookie in that kind of moment, like, did you want to go in that shootout, or you're just kind of like someone just score and get us to the playoffs?
Well, we had so many guys that were lights out. Again, I think at that point you're almost naive to the pressure of it a little bit. Where like I think it was, who did we have shoot? We had
Briere,
Drew, and what had it been? I can't even remember the third either. But anyway, those guys were lights out. But yeah, that was crazy. Last night we got delayed a little bit after the game, coming home from Philly, and Jody Shelley, he's one of my great friends and mentors as far as, like you mentioned, from those first few years in Philly, and he was on the Rangers for that game. We were actually talking about this last night, just that shootout, and one of the hardest hits I've ever seen anyone take was Chris Pronger had him lined up on the boards. I think came skating like 50 feet and just absolutely blasted him. And that hit went by the way, from being on the it's all good hit to the next year. Maybe this one's not allowed anymore. But anyway, we were laughing about that game and just like how nuts that whole situation was with our team in Philly that year. We were picked before the year to win the Cup, and then obviously got off to such a slow start. I think we were last in the league by like Thanksgiving. Made the coaching change and started to kind of, again, we still were kind of teetering, and then played our way back into it. And then your game 82, I think we played the Rangers the last
home
two
and home.
games, right?
Home and home.
And I think they won in New York, and then we won at home, right? In the shootout to make the playoffs. But that's those are the type of memories, just looking back, that were just amazing. And just some of those moments. Bush had that nice little celly after. I think that he was all pumped up.
I think Jody scored in both those games.
He did. And actually Bush made an epic save on him too, where he had like the whole net. He misplayed it to Jody, put it on his tape, and then slid across, got it with his paddle. So Jody his fingerprints were all over those two games, I think. So yeah.
Was something I've talked about on this show before, and I mean, I used to yell and scream this on the broadcast too. Like, I never felt like the Flyers used you properly in your two different stints in Philadelphia. I'm like, what don't they see that I do? But you know, one thing I've talked about, you have this long career, and it's sort of well documented amongst the players. And I don't know how public this is, but just how well you take care of yourself off the ice. And you know, the time, the effort, the resources. Look, you are my go-to when I am somewhere and I need something, as far as I need a massage guy, I need a chiropractor, I need, like, if I have an injury or I have an issue, you're the first guy that I reach out to, because I know you have a bunch of people that you have vetted over the last 15 or plus years, that if you give them the approval, then it's like, it's all good. And even our pal Craig, I now have our players driving an hour and a half from Middletown to Delaware to go see him when he has injuries. So, you know, when they have injuries. So I'm curious, like, when did that all start? And like, the part two of that is, how has that evolved over time? Because like, training and off ice and how you take care of yourself has just changed. I know publicly, at least Tom Brady has shed so much light on that over the last number of years. So I'm wondering when did this start for you, and when did this become like part of your Bible of how you treat yourself in your career?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think just growing up, playing at the Brick Hockey Club for Alex DePalma, he was always big on just like the off ice stuff. And back then it was pretty basic. It was like, we'd do like jumping rope, run a mile, some push-ups and sit-ups, shoot some pucks, and stick handle a golf ball. And again, I always just found hockey fun, and just that I didn't really consider it like working out or something that was like punishment or whatever. I always thought that stuff was going to make me a better player. So I always was kind of into it like that. And then obviously over the years, it's kind of evolved into a little bit of a Rolodex of different, like you said, people that you learn so much from over the years. And I think having a couple injuries early on in Philly, I think that also kind of led me down the path of, okay, like, I really need to make sure I'm going about this. Obviously, again, you have the desire for it, but you got to make sure you do things smart, do things the right way to have that longevity. So I've been able to learn from a lot of really smart people over the course of my career. I mean, guys like Ben Prentice, Andy O'Brien, kind of really, those are well-known names. And
Andy O'Brien, he trains Crosby,
hockey
right?
circle. Yeah, so exactly. And obviously there's so many other guys I could list and name, but those two guys in particular, I feel like really opened my eyes to just the routine and the approach and treating it like a craft that you need to have. And then obviously, again, it's evolved a little bit over the years of stuff that you find that works for you. But again, I just love the game, love everything about it, love trying to figure different things out and do it kind of in a smart way. I feel like everyone wants to work hard and wants to get better, but I think just having that approach where that's actually possible and you're not just kind of beating your head against the wall, I feel like that's half the battle, is knowing what to work on, knowing how to work on it. Just so again, you could do something at the rink where, you know what, you need to work on picking pucks up off the wall, but if you have a stick that's too long and a curve that's not right and the wrong lie, like, you could do that great, but your ceiling's going to be capped at a certain point with that. So I think kind of approaching it with always that sort of why are we doing certain things, and how do we improve upon it really, and really kind of diving into the details of that, I feel like has kind of served me well over my career and kind of led me down all these different paths of learning about things, about my craft in hockey, learning about the body, learning about recovery, performance, all that sort of stuff. So it's definitely something I've gotten really into over the years, and I think it's served me well.
Do you still tinker with your sticks?
I haven't tinkered with it a ton in like the last probably 6 or so years. So I've been working with Adam Oates now for a while, and I think I had worked with him for a few years already before I switched to his pattern, and it's pretty much, you can do everything you need to do within a hockey game with his curve and his stick. So I've kind of been drinking the Kool-Aid on that. So the way he kind of teaches his players to look at your stick is to look at it like a tool. Like if you're going to go rake the leaves, would you go out there with a shovel, or would you go out there with a rake? And everyone would go out with a rake. So it's like, if you're going to go play hockey and you're going to go handle the puck, and you're going to go pick up pucks off the boards, you're going to handle bouncing pucks, you're going to make plays on your backhand, you need to have a certain kind of characteristics of that that are going to allow you to do those things. So that's kind of the way that just the stuff that he's been able to teach me over the years has just been invaluable. And that's obviously a big part of it, is just having something in your hands that you can do everything with, you can execute with on the ice. Because again, if you can execute, that's going to lead to your coach maybe liking you a little bit more, and maybe getting a little more opportunity, maybe being more productive, all these little things. And when you get all these different little plays over the course of an 82 game season, if you can make a few more plays that you weren't able to do otherwise, that starts to add up and make you more effective as a player.
What about off the ice? Are you one of those weirdos that like cold tubs before the games and stuff? Period?
Yeah, I don't do it in between periods. I got some other stuff going in between periods, but
I don't know how guys do that in between periods.
That was Patty Marlowe. He would.
How do you have time?
I couldn't get fully dressed and undressed that many times. Yeah. That would drive me crazy. But yeah, he'd be in the cold tub between each period, and he was like a guy who could get dressed in like 90 seconds in all his gear. But no, that's some of the stuff over the years with the sauna, with the cold tub, with the breath work and stuff. That's definitely something a little bit more recently for me that I've started to explore a little bit. But there's lots of great stuff out there. You just got to try to find what works for you.
Are you still doing any of that PRI balloon breathing? Like I remember when Kevin Neal started introducing that to us, whatever, 10 plus year, 15 year. I just couldn't wrap my head around it, but obviously it's something that you've stayed with, right?
Yeah, stuff like that for sure. That, like you said, I remember meeting
What's
Kevin.
balloon breathing?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I remember meeting Kevin. What was it? Probably like at the very start of my career, maybe either right before my first year, right after my first year, maybe.
College age. We were college age when we met him.
Right. So I remember him introducing this stuff that was way different, way outside the box, and it's stuff that over the years, and again, getting a chance to work with him last year was amazing, because I think I didn't necessarily maybe appreciate some of that stuff as much. Like you said, then it's hard when you're a 20-year-old kid to wrap your head around, like, you're just used to seeing how everyone else does it. And when you're doing stuff a little bit differently, you're like, okay, like, why wouldn't I just do this, what everyone else is doing? But again, a lot of times it's trying to figure out the smartest way to do things. And sometimes it might look a little unorthodox at times, but that's been something that, again, for me, especially like getting a chance to work with him a little bit closer last year and diving into some more of those principles. And you try to learn new things every day, every year that you can, because I think I remember Chris Pronger, someone asked him my first year in Philly, they're like you're someone who doesn't have anything to learn. Like, what can you teach whatever some of these guys on the team? And he's like the minute I don't think I have something to learn is the minute my career is going to be over. Yeah. So I think, again, just looking back at that, just having that influence of someone like that saying that, I think really kind of, I don't know if humbles you is the right word, but it just realizes what it takes and what kind of approach and mentality you have to have some of that longevity and continually evolving and adapting as the game changes, or as you advance in your career and things like that.
You also have to pick up skills away from the ice, which you've been able to do. And I'm trying to figure out a way to work this in, because I have to ask you about it. And I know you just met me, but you're partially responsible for my entire personality in college. And I hope that gives you a hint of what I'm getting at. I don't know if I've heard any of the guys in this scene talk about it, but big Leslie Mann, Megan Fox guy,
Yeah.
obviously, who isn't? But Vic, I think he has the video queued up. These front 4 teeth are fake. I got them knocked out in junior, so I was the guy in college that the girls would say, "Take your teeth out." You know, I was that puppet.
Good for you. I love hearing that. That's great.
Yeah, no, it was, dude, this scene changed my life. I think Vic has it.
What sport do you guys play?
We play hockey.
Oh, I like hockey.
Who do you guys play for?
We play for the Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah.
So you guys are all from Philadelphia?
No. Actually, none of us are.
Do you guys still have all of your teeth?
Well, I got all my teeth fixed up. These ones. You want to try them on?
Yeah, I'll do it. Do I look sexy? Yeah.
Wow. They definitely look way better on her than they do on you.
Thank you.
But literally, like this is again pre-COVID. Girls love this. Now it's probably a little bit grosser, knowing what we know. But can you talk about like how that whole like opportunity came to be and just filming a scene with those two incredible actors? And was it a one-liner for you, or was that multiple takes?
So yeah, like speaking of that, it's actually funny. Like a week ago, and this is where you mentioned like the kind of like the generational gap between me and some of the younger guys. Like somehow it came up in the locker room. Like guys were talking about it before pregame meal. I was already eating the meal, but like they were like, oh, he's in a movie. Like, and they started looking up the scene, whatever. So they were asking me all about it.
It's a great movie.
Great movie. But yeah, I think the way it came about was they wanted a hockey player without any teeth. And obviously Ian LaPerriere, I think if you look that up in the dictionary, his picture would be right next to it. What a warrior he was. But I think, so they wanted him. And then it was something about he was going to bring a few of his teammates, but they had to be American or have their green card. So right away that I think the only Americans on the team were me and Matt Carl, and Scotty Hartnell had his green card. So at that point it was like, okay, like this would be like a bucket list sort of thing to do. So I'm just going to go do it. So we were there literally filming from like 6 a.m. till like 2 or 3 a.m. the following day. And it was all like, what's it called? Improv. So they're just like, just be yourselves and just like kind of just chirp each other, stuff like that. So yeah, that was all just kind of us just trying to be ourselves and just chirp each other. And I actually still keep in touch with one of the actors who was in the scene with us, Phil Burke, who's been a good friend. Guy or the... no, that's the long brown hair in there with us. But no, that looking back, like that was super cool and fun, and like some pretty big stars that were in that movie with. So we got to actually, because of the lockout, we got to go to the premiere too in LA, which is pretty cool.
No way.
So yeah, that was really.
Was anyone hitting on them, on Megan Fox? Scotty Hartnell must have been trying to make a move.
Yeah, no, she wasn't really having any of that. No, but no, like, and Leslie Mann and Judd Apatow, he was the director, so they're married and have a couple kids, and they were just so cool, so gracious, so nice to us. And actually, there was towards the end of like the scene, like they did this like thing, like for like, I think it was for like outtakes or something, where like they like literally, and Colby obviously like knows how I am, so this is like so outside of my personality, but they're like they grabbed each one of us at once, and they had a huge circle with all the actors and extras, and they just had they had us doing like dancing. And
no way.
They had us and I'm like, I have nothing to offer.
Bring the dice out.
And that's it. Yeah, I had that going. I think I had like the fishing line going too. Like it was not pretty. So if that footage ever sees the light of day, I hope they have that buried somewhere. But
and you're so much smaller than everybody too. So it just it's so uncomfortable. I'm sure.
I'm not smooth at all in that scenario. So geez, but.
Just so you know, I'm not lying. Yeah, Nick has my clip pulled up. Just so you know, I'm not lying. Yeah, that was my whole personality for 4 years ago.
It's not all the goals. It's not all the goals you've scored. It's not all the years in the NHL. It's the movie scene and
you're a hero for me for different reasons.
And the teeth coming out of your mouth. I remember when you did that. That was like the only thing anybody was talking about in our group chats for a while, and obviously, doing it around some of those guys like Hartsey, and then your line actually makes it into the movie, which is great. You still get those residual checks rolling in every now and again, or what?
Yeah, usually that's like once a year for a couple $100, I think it is. So yeah, it's still kind of crazy to think that's because again, it was one of those movies. I think it was like, what is it, like TNT or TBS? Like it was always on there for maybe like 5 years ago, like all the time. So
I mean, the cast is unreal. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was telling the guys, whenever they see it on Netflix or Hulu or whatever it's on these days, just get it rolling and just keep it playing. So I think maybe.
I mean, I'm sure some of the young guys on your team, Fantilli and Johnson, like these guys would have been. I mean, what you were what 21 at the time or something like that.
Yep.
So these guys would have been like 5 years old.
Exactly. So like they some of them hadn't even like, they're like, what movie are you talking about? So anyway, that was classic.
Well, it's funny. I actually forgot that you did that. Johnny was the one who dug that up. I didn't even,
one of my favorite movies. I love that movie.
I definitely didn't prompt that. So, you came on our show about a week ago, and as we're moving through your career here, and I know Vic wants to hear all about your time in Toronto. So we'll have to spend a few minutes. Our producer, diehard fan, all logic goes out the window. It's like Johnny with the New York Rangers. These guys lose their ability to be reasonable humans when you're talking about their teams. So, but as of late, Shaddy retires. Last year was Paul Stastny's last year. Sam Gagne's not officially retired, but he's not playing this year. Voracek, like all these guys that were kind of in and around you, a lot of them are starting to retire. You went into this year and you had to be patient. It was a very different scenario for you. You've been on, very, very large contracts throughout your life. Obviously, Boston was a little bit different last year, but at least you signed that at an early date, I think right away. So is it starting to feel like you're getting some closure on your career? Are you thinking about that at all? Or what's it like kind of being in the situation that you're in right now? Because it is vastly different than any other part of your career.
Yeah, I think, just looking at it from that perspective, I think it just brings more gratitude for the whole journey, and just every day that you get and every game that you get a chance to play in is a gift and amazing. And obviously, again, it's something I still love and love everything that goes into it. But like you said, obviously there's some guys that you're close with that you've come up through the ranks with that are now deciding to step away and things like that. And certainly you realize you got, I'm closer to the end than the beginning for sure, but I still love it. I still love everything that goes into it. The figuring different things out, trying to evolve as a player, and how I can try to, again, adapt in different roles or scenarios to help the team win games and things like that. So I still love that whole part of it. I still feel like I have a lot to offer to the game and in that way. So I just try to take it one day at a time, but definitely I think the longer you play, the more you have the gratitude for everything that the game has given you, and again, how lucky that we are to kind of play in this, live out our dream. And as my kids get a little bit older too, like I think they start to realize how kind of special it is and how fun it is, and stuff like that. So again, the last few years, certainly, again, moving around a few different times makes it a little bit more challenging when you have the family stuff, but they've been just great in supporting me and allowing me to live out my dream. And so that's a part that I can't not be grateful to them for my wife and kids for again, all they do to support me in that way. So I think ultimately, again, you can't really have the view of the 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So I think it comes out more in gratitude of everything that you go through, and just keeping things in perspective a little bit more, because like you said, it's been obviously a long road, and but it's still something I love, and I still love the challenge of waking up every day and just trying to figure out what each day brings and how I can best approach it.
I have an improv question from that, which might be tough because obviously you've played over 1,000 games, but if you could like relive one game, knowing the outcome, like which game would you go back to? And then if you could like kind of flip the script and maybe change the outcome of one game in your career, which game would that be? I have a feeling I know what you're gonna say.
I feel like that's a loaded question. Oh my God.
Pretty good improv.
Yeah. Wow.
But you have such a good memory. I feel like you're a good guy to ask that question to.
Yeah, I mean, an easy one to say is the Game 7 and what was that, 2013, I think, in Toronto, when we kind of
Boston
had that when they came back on us in the third period with like 10 minutes left. Like that one still hurts and stings.
Yeah, nobody talks about that anymore.
That was tough. That was certainly tough. I think again, it was such a we came into that year with kind of something to prove, I think, as a team. That was my first year there, but like the team didn't have a great year the year before. And obviously we wanted to make the playoffs. We accomplished those goals. We were down 3-1 in that series, forced it to 7, feel like we have it. And then obviously it just slipped away from us. But yeah, that one still hurts.
Nick's crying right now behind the scenes, by the way.
To think about. Yeah, that one was really tough. And that one, yeah, I don't think we'll ever get over that one. And then maybe again, another good one would be for that question. Maybe just my first year, just obviously being in the final and losing in overtime in Game 6. Who knows? You push it to 7, then it's anyone's game. So those would be two that kind of stick out the most. But I think looking back, it's just like, you almost take it, not take it for granted, but my first 3 years, I think in Philly, like we made it to at least the second round, I want to say, each of those years. So it's like you don't realize how hard it is to win and to make a run in the playoffs until you kind of go through some of those pains over the years of not doing it. So obviously last year getting a chance to play in the playoffs, I think it reignited that in me of like how fun this is and how rewarding it is to kind of go on to try to have some success. And obviously we had that great series against Toronto and even looking back against the Florida series, like obviously they were such a great team, had such a great year. But I'd love to know what that series looks like if we're not missing someone like Marshy for a few of those games. Just because I feel like we were doing a lot of good things and coming off such a high from that previous series, and then obviously that happens and he gets knocked out for a few games there. That definitely hurt a bit too. But I think you realize how you have to really kind of take advantage of each chance you get at the playoffs, just because it's a grind and it's hard and a lot of things have to go your way to get a chance to win.
Jonny loves to try to make our guests sad, B, hate him. Charlie McAvoy almost threw him off of our show.
He's my friend.
with how ridiculous of a question he asked him.
It was a bad
on
one.
The one. Would you say Toronto is where you cut your teeth? Because I do feel like, and I've followed your career super close. People always say, "Oh, what's your favorite team?" And I'm like, I don't have a favorite team. I just have my favorite players. You know, my friends from our young days of hockey. So obviously you're one of those guys, and seeing you play 1,000 games, I feel like I know your game like the back of my hand. And I just felt like Toronto was the one team, and the staffs that you played for, they were like, okay, we know what this guy's really good at, and that's what we're going to lean into with him. And I don't think that happened to you many other times in your career. Did you feel like an at-home sense through your years of Toronto and feel like some of, maybe that's where you really took steps into being a star and being an Olympian and all of the different, things that you kind of found your way into and made your way into?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there, like you mentioned, just the fit for me was just great, just as far as role. Some of the guys I had some great chemistry with, how I fit into the dynamic of the team. Like looking back, like at this point, like obviously that was so how everything was for me there was great. And you wish it could work like that every year of your career where the fit's perfect and everything kind of goes your way in that sense. But obviously, I think, again, finding that resiliency and learning to deal with that is something that's a great skill to have so you can have a long career, so you can kind of roll with the punches a little bit and learn that you got to keep grinding and keep again, keep evolving, keep adapting, keep trying to do things to, again, make you more versatile, more valuable, and things like that. But I think certainly as far as my bread and butter for my skill sets and things like that, I think that was obviously such a great fit playing in Toronto. And it was kind of through a couple different evolutions of the team too. I think, obviously my first few years, it was with me and Bozy were kind of attached to the hip for all 6 of those years, which was great. And I think our styles like complemented each other so great, just how we thought the game, kind of the different sort of things that we both were good at, just meshed together so well. And then obviously having someone like Phil Kessel on the right wing for the first 3 years of that was amazing. And he doesn't forget to tell me that, don't forget who made you a player in this league, James. When he feels like he needs to tell me that. So
taught you what not to eat, that's for sure.
No, but he was great. And then the last few years of that, again, like playing with it was kind of maybe 50-50 between like Connor Brown and Mitch Marner at 5-on-5, and then playing a lot with Mitch Marner on the power play. But I think again, just stylistically between having those guys on my line, I think the hockey felt almost like easy in a way, where you just kind of were in that state of just playing, where you didn't feel like you had to think too much or overthink it. It's just like your instincts really. I was really able to play to my instincts there. But I feel like the way we all kind of thought the game and played together and had that kind of chemistry that made it a lot easier. So definitely looking back, for sure, it seemed like that in Toronto was definitely where that all kind of came together nicely for me.
It's funny though that you mentioned Phil Kessel too, because Colby and I like argued this like 2 weeks ago, and Phil Kessel was in this mix, and you know, I'm not gonna like make an argument out of it, but you played with like Claude Giroux when he became a star, and you played with Phil Kessel when he was a star. Like the 3 years of 2011 and 2014, like they were 1 and 2 in points for like all 3 of those years. And I feel like that just gets forgotten about like how good those 2 guys were. And then you go to Toronto and you're playing with like Austin Matthews, right? And like his rookie year. I mean, you've been around some of these guys like at their peak, which is nuts. I'm just curious, like who's the one where I guess the talent was just like, whoa, like this guy is just on another planet.
Wow. I mean, obviously like the line mates, you see it firsthand when you're on the ice. You can like really see it up close, and like you can feel it in your bones almost, just like how you're thinking the game and how they read the game and the plays that they're able to make. So certainly, again, someone, especially like my first couple of years, where obviously G is like a little bit of a smaller guy, and the league was probably a lot bigger back then too, those first couple of years. But just like the way that he was able to, like the coordination and kind of balance that he had to be able to like send guys flying, that he probably had like 30-40 pounds on him, and he was able to play a little bit of like that power game for his size, but he always seemed to have the puck on a string and find that extra play that was incredible. So like seeing that sort of emergence of that, because I think he kind of like my first 2 years is when he really took those huge steps. I think like the first year he had probably like maybe like 40-50 points, and then I want to say the next year 60 or 70, and then obviously never looked back from there. And then obviously someone like Phil, I think when I started playing with him, was a little bit more established, but he was but with all those guys, I think just the kind of the one thing that they all had in common is just wanting to be difference makers. Like Phil like wanted that puck on his stick, like whenever, like no matter what. And same with G, like he wanted the puck, like he wanted to be the difference in the game. And same with guys like Mitch and Austin and stuff like that. So and again, even guys last year getting a chance to play with like Marshy and Pasta, like same thing. Like they want to go down, like if they, no matter what's happening in the game, like they want the puck on their stick when a play needs to get made to win the game, and they want that kind of responsibility of that. So it's that is definitely something that you notice in common to that. But as far as picking just one of them, it's
tough.
A lot of them are special. A lot of them are a little bit different too. But yeah, no, a lot of guys I'm lucky that I've gotten a chance to play with in that sense over the course of my career.
And just to follow up, and this is my last one. I was watching Claude Drew last night was on After Hours with Scott Oak on Hockey Night in Canada, and they were asking him about like why he chirps so much and how talkative he is like on the ice. And obviously, again, like the different dynamic with our show is like I grew up watching like your guys' generation, so like I just have all these memories in the back of my head. And I told Colby before we started recording with you that to me and to my generation, you're like the OG pigeon when it comes to being called a pigeon on the ice. Like
pigeon.
Like I had never seen that or heard that because I was probably like 14 or 15 at the time.
Yeah.
And like I'm just so curious, like because you guys were boys when that went down.
Oh yeah.
So, like, what the hell is going on in that clip?
So the backstory of that would be like it would be like me, Scotty Hartnell, Claude, maybe a couple other guys, but for sure us three, like we would just make that noise to each other all the time, like no matter what. Like if someone did something stupid or whatever it may be, like even on the ice. So like it, and someone like G, obviously, like during the game, like he just loves to. I think it gets him into the game. Like he just
that's what he said.
To, like
yeah,
he just
exactly what he said.
Like loves to yuck it up with guys. Like I'll bet you $100. I'll beat you on this face-off. And this was like years ago. I don't know if he still does that, but years ago. And then he'd be like, if the guy beat him, like he'd send him over $100 for the face-off loss, or vice versa. He'd come collect. So like he was hilarious with stuff like that. So yeah, just like that was stuff that we'd always be doing to each other, sort of like in the locker room or whenever on the ice. So obviously that I think that was probably the first time I had played those guys. Maybe after getting traded. So so yeah, not surprising that he was doing the noise, but that was something again with him and Hartsey always going back and forth with that.
I had actually never seen that video, and if I did, I forgot.
I Bantam practice the next day. That's all we were doing to each other.
Well, let me ask you. I want to leave you with this question, and then we're gonna let you go. Because we've now spent a little bit of time talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs, and you brought up Mitch Marner, and you talked about some of those guys. Like, do you think this is the year they finally can get over the hump? Because we go back and forth about them on this show all the time. And I love some of the guys that they've brought in. And look, I know you play for a different team, and it's you're putting a guy in a little bit of a tough spot when you ask him a question about a different team. But look, you spent 6 years in Toronto. You're uniquely qualified to talk about that market and that team and the pressure. Doesn't have to be a long answer. I'm just curious if you think they can finally get over the hump this year.
Yeah, obviously how it goes in any sport, it's like when you're kind of like the highest paid marquee guys on a team, like when things don't go the way you want, you probably fairly or unfairly take the most criticism because of that. But I think again, like looking at sort of like the core of that team with those guys, obviously those guys that you mentioned are all guys that I play with: Morgan Riley, William Nylander, Mitch, Austin. And again, obviously it takes, like we mentioned, like it's hard to win in this league. It takes a lot of things to go right. And sometimes it takes time, but those are guys with how they approach their craft, how they approach the game, kind of the drive that they have and how bad that they want to win. Those aren't necessarily guys that I'd be betting against in anything. So again, sometimes it takes some time to go through some different things and experiences, and it's hard, like especially with the way the format of the playoffs is now. It's like you have tough matchups. Seemingly again for the last what's it been like the last 5 6 years of this, like the in that division you've had 3 of the top 6 or 7 teams in the league every year. So usually in the first round, one of those top teams is going to have to get knocked out, and that's just the way it's gone. So certainly it's tough. But again, those are not necessarily guys that I would bet against just because of those things that I'd mentioned. So I think again, they're special players, and they have that special quality about them. And obviously it hasn't gone their way yet as far as ultimate goal of things. So tough to predict again, obviously when that will be, but I mean, those are guys that you'd want to have in your corner and want to have on your team any day of the week.
Yeah. I saw
ask your stupid question.
No,
I know you have one.
I was going to chime in. one of those things that we always do. Colby always tries to let his friends leave, and I always say I have one more question, and it's usually stupid. So I was just going to do that, but I think he's giving me the floor already, which is premature. But I was just going to say, like, since you're tight with him, is Scotty Lawton's name going to be on the trade target again this year, or when do we expect that?
I feel like Scotty is maybe one of the more underrated players in the whole league. Just like what he can do for a team. Just his versatility, I think, first and foremost, might be his best quality. Like, you could literally put him on any position in the forward group and he'll have an impact on the game. And I don't think he gets enough credit for how poised and talented he is, and he just makes guys around him a better player. So
he's hilarious too.
So yeah, Philly's lucky to have him. So I don't know.
He's one of the few guys that. Yeah, he's one of the few guys that will actually text Johnny back. So Johnny has a little.
He hasn't answered my last two.
Yeah, he's
after his 4-goal game, and he didn't even answer me. I was like, "This is probably the best time to text."
Well, you ran out. He
didn't even text me back after that 4-goal game
really?
either.
Oh, so. Why would you tell him that? Don't let him off the hook, Reams. All right, look. We really appreciate your time today. It's good to finally have you on. I'm just gonna leave you with this. Don't retire. I like keep playing until you're 100 if you can, okay, pal? Because it's you. I know you still feel good physically, so as long as somebody will give you a check to play this game, keep playing it because you've put a hell of a run together. So we appreciate your time. Put your finger down.
I'm starting the narrative.
Vic, do me a favor, Vic. Just mute his microphone because I just can't deal with. I can't deal with it all. Maybe Johnny will give a speech when they put you in the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame one day, Reamer. Okay.
I was going to say I'm starting the narrative that we just lost our second overall pick. Reamer's a Laviolette former player, Ranger fan. Why not bring him back to New York?
So look, we appreciate your time. Have a happy holiday. Have a great Christmas with your family. Give them all of our love and we didn't even talk about your brother. I think we're gonna have to get Trevor on here now since we never talked about him at any point. But we'll we give him plenty of love on this show because we're big fans of the Caps and the way he plays. So thanks for your time today, bud, and then I'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right.
Thanks, Mr. JVR.
All right. Yeah. Take care, guys.
Yeah.
You make it too easy, especially when you started by calling him Reamer.
That's good stuff.
You make it too easy. So. Yeah. It's funny with him. You could probably do like a 5-hour show because every question we ask, you can always ask for a follow-up or more.
We didn't even do Olympics.
We didn't talk about the Olympics. We didn't talk about some of the stupid, funny things that we got into when we were young. There were so many different things that we definitely, we didn't talk about Colin Wilson at all, which is one of his absolute favorite topics to talk about. So, but it's great to get his point of view. We usually don't do these 1 hour, more interview types. We usually talk to guys about current events and stuff like that. So good to kind of mix it up a little bit and we'll get this released either, probably I'm thinking the day after Christmas, probably not on Christmas morning, I would think.
Well, either way, they're listening to it whenever they're listening to it. So
yeah, they can listen to it whenever, but I do feel like people are probably pretty busy. I know, for us growing up.
As you're saying this, it's released and they're listening to it. So the day we decide doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess that's probably a good point. So every once in a while, you make a good point. So, Johnny, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say. I do want to make this clear to everyone. It's killing Johnny that we can't talk about Matt Rempe because this is a pre-tape. And we're going to talk about it on our show on Monday.
Already heard it again.
So I just want to let everybody know there's a lot of pain behind his eyes right now. He actually blocked me on social media today. I found out. And again, this is the 22nd. We're recording this at 6 p.m. So I've
never blocked anyone on Twitter in my life. In the second period of the game today, I was like, I can't fucking take him right now.
Just because he's just too easy to wind him up and unravel him. So anyways, look, as always, we appreciate everybody rolling with us. It's going to be a weird schedule throughout this week. It's a great interview with James Van Riemsdyk. We'll check in with him again probably this summer and see what's going on with him. But other than that, Johnny, I don't know if you want to take the final word here and take us out of the show.
No, nothing else from me today. We'll talk to you guys on Monday. It's going to be, like Colby said, a weird schedule with New Year's and Winter Classic and all that stuff, but we'll keep you all informed, whether it's on the show or on social media. But we love you all, and whenever this episode does come out, we hope you enjoyed it, and we'll talk to you soon.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.